Alright, so hi, welcome back to the channel. If you're curious as to why I'm making this video, it's probably because I've noticed that there hasn't really been any dedicated resources on how to improve at Magic, right? There has been little tips here and there, but they're just scattered all over the place, and I want a centralized or a localized go-to place for tips and tricks on how to improve as a magician. So obviously this isn't a comprehensive guide to everything, right? But it is everything that I think helped me and things that I've learned over the years. So yeah, but obviously some of them I don't really have experience in. It's more like I've seen results and what they've produced, and yeah, it's it's pretty insane. So yeah, let's get right into it. So the very first tip that I have to improve as a magician is critical thinking, right? I've said time and time again, but critical thinking is extremely important. You should question everything, especially for magic methods and context, right? So if you see something like a classic pass, you should ask yourself why, right? So why am I cutting this half the deck to control a single card? When should I be doing it? Or this isn't this doesn't only apply to sleights, it also applies to routines, it also applies to magicians as well. So if you look at a magician, why do I like his style, right? What makes him so entertaining? What makes him so attractive to the audience members, right? And I don't want you guys to only think about good routines, right, or good sleights or magicians. I also want you guys to think about bad sleights, bad magicians, bad routines, right? Why don't I like this magician? Why don't I like this routine? Why is throwing me off from this, right? Why doesn't this particular context fit this routine, right? And etc, etc. And you'll notice that the more you think about routines, the more you think about sleights, right, the more that you start to apply that same thinking into your own material, and the more you'll notice that it'll evolve, right? And the more it evolves, the more you mature as a magician, and thus you'll improve, right? So yeah, that was tip number one, right? Critical thinking for everything, right? For everything, for your sleights, for your routines, for magicians, right? Your favorite magicians, your most hated magicians, right? And so yeah, that's critical thinking. The second tip that I have is, just finding, right, a community to be around, right? A community is, just, it doesn't have to be actual real real life. It can be online as well, right? And the point of a community is just to have people that you can interact with and that you can have ideas with, right? So the more that you guys bounce ideas, the more you guys will mature together, right? And you also want to find people who are honest with you, right? Why who can say I don't like this part, maybe you can change that part, right? Yeah, so that's pretty much it for just finding a community that can be, honest with you, and that that you can bounce back ideas with, right? So on how to find a community, right? Obviously you have online, but online people aren't always the most reliable, I could say. So you could go on a Magic Discord, I believe. Let me check, give me a second. So for a Magic Discord, you can find Deceptive Design, which is a Magic Discord again, right? For cardistry, there is the Cardistry Discord, which is the Cardistry Discord. For Magic, there's obviously the Xavier Spade Discord, which is kind of dead. And if you join a Patreon, then they would usually have a Discord as well, right? So that's how you find a community. Or you can just say oh, hey, I like your material, and then you could DM them and then slowly form networks, right? So that's how you find communities. And it is important to note that preferably the people should be around your level. Obviously some people can be better, some people can be worse, right? It doesn't really matter. But what I really like to do is that when people are around your level or your age, right, you guys tend to grow together, right? So you guys tend to have the same storyline, and you guys tend to grow together, right? But when someone is too good, right, you tend to be the one who's getting carried to them, right? It's not like a mutual growth. Well, it can, but usually like the more mature person doesn't learn from you, right? Or vice versa, or like there's someone worse than you and you have to drag them to your level, right? So preferably someone who's around your age level or skill level, right? So that's your community, right? So having a community to bounce back of your skill level and, you know, just be honest with you. So that is tip number 2. Tip number 3 is a bit harder to find these days, right? It is just finding a mentor. Finding a mentor in Magic is quite difficult nowadays because there's just no Magic. Particular for my area because there's no Magic shops. But mentorship is like this old system of Magic where an experienced magician would take in a new magician under their wing and they would train them, right? They would know their habits, they would know their faults, and then they would tweak them, right? They would like slowly help them build up to become a good magician, right? And I know people who've trained under the mentorship system, right? People like Jason Ladani, there you go, who trained under Darwin Ortiz, and look at him now, he's absolutely like amazing, right? There's also people like Dennis Kim with Tony Chang, right? And they're both like just really notable sleight of hand artists. And so yeah, finding a mentor who can guide you along the way and just, you know, help you find your path in Magic will help you improve along the way, right? The 4th trick that I have is rather simple, but it is, you know, just failing, right? Failing, I think that people don't give enough credit to failing. Failing is probably the best way to learn because you're forced to reflect on why it didn't work, right? Why didn't this routine work? Is it because of the audience member? Is it because of me? Is it because of the material? And sometimes it might not even be either of those things, right? It could be just the situation that they're in, right? They're not feeling it, right? So I think failing will help you mature as a magician, and it will help you reflect and improve, right, gradually. So the more that you fail, the more that you improve, right? But it is important for you to, you know, actually take that step to learn, right? So getting experience and failing. The last tip is something that, you know, I've actually used for quite a long time because I don't really have, you know, a mentor. And I don't really train, I don't really practice all that much. I don't really like perform all that much, rather. But so this last tip kind of helped me a bit, and it is something that most people don't know about, but it is Magic interviews, right? Magic interviews are extremely important because magicians don't show their hands, right? They're not here to show you methods, but they're here to demonstrate their thinking, right? And they're usually like, their theories are usually extremely important to how their style of magic is, right? So so interviews will help you develop as a magician, right? Because you're learning about all the intricacies of their thinking that you wouldn't get, especially if you didn't like, especially if you bought like a method from the magician, right? But with interviews, you get like the full blow of theory and everything, right? And their thinking. So yeah, so that's tip number 5. It is listening to magicians, right? Interviews, right? So one really good one, which is on the Illusionist YouTube channel right now, it is the Tony Chang interview, right? The Inner World of Tony Chang. I just love everything by Tony Chang. It is extremely, you know, important, right? I believe Vanishing Ink also has a podcast, so you can listen to that. So yeah, just tip number 5, interviews with magicians, right? Just a lot of theory, dry material, but believe me, it works so well, right? So yeah, that's about it, right? So just as a recap, the 5 tips that I brought to you in this video are: 1, critical thinking. So think about everything, right? Question everything. Question your favorite magicians, your favorite sleights, your most hated sleights, your most hated magicians, right? So that's that. Number 2 is finding a community, right? Finding a community who can be honest with you and bounce back ideas with you and who are at a similar level to you, right? Number 3 is finding a mentor, which is slightly more difficult nowadays, but a mentor who knows you and who can improve your material. And yeah, the tip number 4 is just failing, right? Getting more experience and failing at everything, and that will help you so long, right? For so long, right? Because you reflect on it and then you slowly adjust, right? And tip number 5 would be listening to magic interviews, because there's just so much there's just so much gold in words that you usually don't hear from methods, because methods are just like, yeah, try material, here's methods, right? And so yeah, that was it for my 5 tips on how to improve as a magician. I hope these tips actually genuinely do help you out. And yeah, you don't need more, like, you don't need to buy more methods to improve as a magician, right? You at some point you just have so much that you just don't know where to start anymore, right? So I think that at some point you have to move away from that, and you have to start thinking for yourself and start, developing your own stuff, right? And these 5 tips do help, right? And so yeah, that's about it for this video. Yeah, I hope, once again, I hope these 5 tips help you. And so yeah, see you next time.